conversation.
That would be great.
Yeah. So here we are. We're impromptu and we're live and in color. I'm here. I'm Tony Sawyer, and this is my son in the gospel, Norman Armstrong, who is the
Hey,
founder and pastor of Bold Ministries. And we are here to have a conversation. In fact, we've already started our conversation. And as people come in, they'll hear it. But yes, that rebranding, we were talking about rebranding ourselves, knowing what we are, finding out who we are apart from the function of being a pastor. And that's been really something for us too, especially for my husband, because he's always associating himself with that
mhm.
role and is having trouble seeing himself outside of that role. So today it's funny because today I was messing around in one of the platforms to build another website for just the two of us,
Mhm.
and it's not church related at all. For people to get to know us on a personal level,
Exactly.
apart from that as a pastor. So hello, Lady Gwen. I'm glad you're here, sweetheart. You're the only one here right now. But
Mhm.
yeah, so we're just I'm more so looking into who are we now, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. Because on last night, as I was sharing, I thought about the parable that Jesus gave concerning the woman that had lost the two mites, and she was
Mhm,
looking for it,
mhm.
only for her to discover that it was right there in a home, in a house. And so many of us, we, of course, everyone is on this journey of not just seeking God, but trying to discover who they are.
Mhm, mhm.
And we always looking outside of ourselves to try to find something that will fulfill us or to make us
Yeah,
happy. And
yeah,
again, going back to the word joy, and I realized looking at that parable, everything that I actually need and the person that I'm actually looking for is right here in the house. It's right here in me.
mhm,
So we spend
mhm.
so much time seeking and seeking and seeking outside of ourselves, where all the answers and everything that we need to know is right here in us.
Yeah, yes, they are. And and I learned that just recently. I kind of came into that, and it's become settle fact for me. When I was getting ready to do the conference, and I was studying, and I said, I'm not going to worry myself with this. I'm just going to let it flow. And I
Mhm.
found myself trying to write down things I had read, write down things I had heard, and in the meantime I wrote down things that I had said, and then I said, "Why am I writing this down?" Because it came out of me.
Exactly.
All of it came out of me in the first place, and so it's here. The knowing is here. Hello,
Exactly.
Kim. I'm glad you're here, darling. So that knowing is inside of us, but we don't realize it. So it keeps us looking on the outside, externally for all of that. I think validation is something that's really important to all of us. All of us want to know if we're being effective, if
Mhm.
we have the goods on board. Can I do this? And it's all about believing in yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And see, that's what happens when, again, when we get to the point where, and I've shared this several times before, when many of us don't realize that we have an addiction to people. And what I mean by that, especially as preachers and ministers, we spend so much of our time ministering and preaching. And if the people don't say anything, no applause, no amen, or whatever, then we think that we're not really fulfilling the task at
Mm-hmm.
hand. So we find ourselves trying to excite the people, because when they respond back with the applause and so forth, then
That's
we think we're
that's
doing something.
validation.
You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And so, and I realized, when this happened, as far as the pandemic, and I even said this, and I really don't want to be offensive to many quote unquote in the church circles. We hope and pray that they understand that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but like I said last night, when I get back to Bowl as their spiritual leader, things are going to have to be different. And the reason why is because I realize we really have not empowered the people. we have excited them. And so I talked about how I'm very energetic. I get excited. And you mentioned about me being an aggressive communicator. I just love what I do as
You're
far as
passionate, but yeah, you're passionate about it. When you get it, it's like, wow.
yep, I give my all and my all to it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I thought about, and I said this on to them last night. And again, not to be offensive, but I thought about how, even the older saints, and we came up in the black church with the hooping and the hollering, the high and the high and the high. And I thought about that thing, like, what is that really all about? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's a learned behavior. It's a learned behavior. And so it's funny when I went to my barber today, the shape of my beard and stuff. And we got on the topic of talking about something like that. And it was funny. I was like, man, that is so funny. I just talked about this last night. But I said, for me, I don't do this. Now, he used to be one of my musicians. And he said, but you don't really do that. I mean, you don't hoop and holler. You just get excited. And I said, exactly. And so forth. And so, now they even got a term for it. And some are teaching it called hoopology. And I thought about it. I said, now, if we will encounter Jesus or encounter God outside of ourselves, do you honestly think he would communicate his wisdom to us by doing that? And the answer is certainly no. It's no. And so I spent a lot of time this week thinking about what we actually really been doing in our local churches. And so,
I think it's twofold. I think, we're just passionate, and it's almost a part of our Black culture.
Exactly.
Especially in the Bible Belt. It's a part of our Black culture. And so Blacks are known to just, and what is their favorite term that they, when they're preaching, they'll say, y'all don't hear me.
And I
so
that's it. I call it a
we're so used to just, getting a response from the people. Getting a response from the people. And I've noticed that some of our Caucasian ministers are not like that. Now, some are. If they've been exposed to the Black Bible Belt culture, they are. But the majority of the Caucasian ministers are not hooping and hollering. They're not looking for that response from people. It's more, it's and I don't know if it's true, but it could be that they're more assured about what it is they're saying.
Exactly.
And it may be that we as Black ministers are looking for validation more so than being sure of that we're saying.
Exactly. Because and it's funny because when that happens, they want the music behind, all of a sudden the organist or the keyboardist is behind them, and now everybody is jumping up and down and getting excited. And then when all is said and done, then we say we had church. But the question is, what did you learn?
Yes.
And that's the place that I'm at now. I'm interested in knowing, you walking in wisdom, you have an insight and revelation, especially of who you really are.
That's the most important thing. And when we know, it's like it will exude from us.
Exactly.
That's the one thing that I'm really serious about with intention, is to make sure that when I'm in front of people, when I'm talking to people, I'm noticing and aware of times when I'm putting on a front and times when I'm being real. And that was one of our prayers when we were very early in Christianity. Lord, I want to be real. That was our prayer. Yes. Lord, I just want to be real, because we had seen so many folk faking it and being phony. And so that was one of my early prayers. And Lord, I just want to be real. But now I'm realizing that you cannot be real if you're not authentic. Exactly. So if I'm trying to look like something in front of other people and trying to make an image in front of people, then what they're going to see is something that's phony. So it's been really important for my husband and myself to be the same people in front of you that we are in our house.
Exactly. I love what Marla Love just
Marla. Hello, Marla.
put up
Marla.
there, I like church service where we leave ego outside. And I am totally in agreement with that. Literally.
Yes, yes,
And,
yes.
and that's what happens, I again, we've been in this a long time, Mom,
Yeah.
and I've watched certain things, and you could tell when someone is not authentic. You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying? I
Mhm.
I remember years ago I started telling my people at Bowl that we need to start celebrating different.
Mhm.
People that are not like you. Because see, if we be honest, most of the service that we go to, no matter what speaker we bring in or whatever, it's going to be about the same scenario. You see what I'm
True,
saying?
true,
The,
true.
the the exciting, the hooping, the hollering, whatever. And again, no one learned anything. Boy, we had church. Okay, but what did the preacher talk about? I don't know, but we had church. You
And
see what
and
I'm
that, I have to admit that's fun,
saying?
but
Mhm.
that's all it is. It's fun.
It's
And
fun.
and
Exactly.
we and even in our earlier days, and I don't know if everyone listening to us can relate to this, but in our earlier church days, we would have prophecies that would go across the floor where people would say, God wants you to praise me, praise me, praise me. God wants you to praise him, praise him. uh and the prophecies, now I understand, were coming from a place inside of us where we thought God needed that. God doesn't need our praise. If a person, let's just say, take me or you for example, if you constantly need me to praise you,
Exactly.
then you're egotistical
Yeah, exactly.
and you are not sure of yourself. You need the validation. So God is not looking, God is complete. He doesn't need validation. He
None.
doesn't need our praise. Worship and praise was for us.
Exactly.
It's for us to feel good, to let go, to have an outlet,
Mm-hmm.
a place of expression, a freedom of expression. So that was all for us. But we mistook it and thought it was something that God required, and God didn't require any of it.
Nope, nope. And so that's where I see a lot of people um are pretty much in prison. I like to say it seems like we have produced zombies within the local assemblies. Everybody doing the exact same thing. And if you do something a little different, like for me, I, I get excited. I really do. I don't need the music behind me. I don't need no one applauding me, whatever. I just have a love and a passion for the word. And
Yeah.
again,
Well, I love a little energy. Now
exactly,
don't just come to me just like
being
that.
monotone.
I like a little energy, but
Yeah.
I remember in my early days of being saved, being in a church where people would shout and praise God, and they were very expressive. And I've never been one to do that. That's not
Mhm.
my temperament. And so I would stand there and think, oh man, I wish I could shout like that. Oh man, and I would try my best to do that, and I felt so awkward. And then when the preacher would say, something is wrong with you if you didn't do it, oh man, that I would have so much uh bondage on me from that. And I thought, well, something's wrong with me because I don't do this and I don't have that. And I think we've lumped people into a box and
Exactly.
said all of you have to respond this way, and that's not fair to people who are quiet, people
Mhm.
who are low key. They don't always yell and run around the church, because
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
know
And of course, you've been at bowling, and we're very aggressive in the things that we do. Of course, the spirit of their leaders upon them, so we are very aggressive. But like you said, it's unfair. Like with myself, okay, in the secular world, I was a dancer. I was just a great dancer. Okay, but when I transitioned into the church, I noticed the same thing when they would start doing they shouting and they dancing or whatever, and so it became like learning the new dance when you was in the secular world. You see what I'm saying? And so again, I'm not one that does that as well. Now I do it, but again, it's like it got to the point where if you didn't shout like the rest of the people, then
Mhm.
you didn't have quote unquote the spirit of God or
Right. That
and,
that was a that was a real disservice to people, to
exactly.
have to fall into that same category. But and for again, to those of you who are listening, we are discussing our own personal journey from the thinking and mind of being just a pastor only into actually just who are we as a person apart from that role. And so that's what we were discussing earlier, and how that right now we're trying to discover and redefine. And I was thinking this morning, I was reading something. This is completely off of what we're talking about now, but it's in James 3, and you've probably read it. I know you have, and probably preached on it. But it's talk about the power of the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something. Let's see if I can find it right quick. And this is the part that stood out to me. The tongue can no man tame. And this is in James 3:8. The tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Ninth verse says, therewith bless we God, even the Father, and therewith curse we men, which are made after the similitude of God. Out of the same mouth proceeds blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not so to be.
Exactly.
I don't know why that stuck with me today, but I realized when I thought about the tongue, most of us relate that to what I'm saying. So I try to speak faith, or so I try to speak things that are positive. But it's also talking about that internal dialogue again, that internal conversation. And I call it the inner judge.
Mm-hmm.
We all have. And on down in there, it talks about a fountain that can't flow bitter and sweet water at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I realize that internal dialogue, when there is a dialogue going off in us that's actually going against other people, and even like what we're talking now, when it's lumping people into the same box, that
Mm-hmm.
is an internal judge that is deciding this is how things ought to be.
Exactly.
It's really hard. It was really hard for me to leave one service, like you said, where they said, oh, God was here. We had church today. The power of God was here, to go to the next service and not try to duplicate that same thing. Because the
Exactly.
internal dialogue or the inner judge was saying, if it's too quiet, something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But not realizing that a lot of times in that quiet is where God is doing the deepest work.
Yes. Yes.
The
Yes. And
deepest
I'm
work. And
so glad. I'm so
go
glad
ahead.
you said that, because we are guilty of that. And like I said, again, being in this such a long time, and of course you and Dad are much longer. I see. I'm an observer. I watch stuff, and it's true. We try with, if we had such a high emotional time this Sunday, the next Sunday, we expecting to do the exact same thing. And so
Mhm.
there is no balance between inspiration and the intellect. It's all
Exactly.
emotional. And so just like you just said, if the following Sunday everything is kind of quiet,
Mhm.
and it's no screaming, hollering, shouting, teaching, it's just mere teaching, then
Mhm.
we begin to say something was wrong. But
Mhm.
in our
Mhm.
own Bibles that many of us carry, and of course now we carry it on smart devices, the Bible even says, "Be still
And
and
no.
know that He is God." So we have to understand there has to be a balance.
So
Somewhere.
the knowing doesn't come until there's stillness.
Exactly.
And I think we as creatures are afraid of silence. We're very afraid of silence. We're afraid of non-activity, and we get bored really easily. And I think that's a part of our conditioning now, with the world giving us all of this stimulus that's coming at us all directions all day long. And
Mhm.
now we have trouble just sitting still and being still. And it said you cannot know until you be still. And,
Exactly.
and that's been a practice of mine. I don't do a lot of praying with words so much.
Hmm.
I sit still. I just sit still. And I don't sit still thinking God's going to tell me something. I don't sit still thinking that I'm going to have some some vision or
Mhm.
spiritual experience, I simply sit still. And when I sit still, I notice the activity of my mind. When you notice,
Exactly.
when you notice the activity of your mind and you're sitting still, you'll notice that you're not that mind. And so,
Exactly.
yeah. And so it's almost like when you sit still and just be there, not expecting. That's the key. Not expecting,
Mm-hmm.
but just being still to know.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're sitting there and the mind is going off, all of a sudden you realize you're dragging something that doesn't want to be still into this place of stillness.
Exactly. Kind of remind me of a baby.
Mhm, mhm.
Baby's going to be active, won't keep still or nothing. But it's great that you said that because, again, we talked about it, and I've been contemplating and meditating on it more this week as well concerning the origin of the mind. And again, in when we are first born, the mind is empty. It is nothing. It's empty,
It's
and then all of a sudden,
it's a sponge.
exactly. And
It's just
so
taking in data. Yeah.
exactly. So whatever is exposed to, it adapts to that behavior. And so
Mhm,
I
mhm,
thought about, and it's funny that you read this scripture in James, one moment with our tongue we blessing God, the next moment we're cursing or
mhm,
cussing one another
mhm,
out and
mhm,
so forth.
mhm,
And I started asking, where does that come from?
mhm.
Where is that actually coming from? And so again, it is because we don't realize that so much of what comes out of us is the false self, that conditioned self, that the mind absorb all these different things
Yes,
around us. I mean, we don't even
yes.
know that our mind absorbs certain stuff and so forth. Think about a kid. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, what we call a bad word comes out of their mouth, and we say, "Oh my God, where did that just come from?" They
Well,
might not have realized it, but they picked it up from somewhere.
you know why I'm laughing? It's because the last time we had our joint service together, that was the one Sunday that we didn't get any offering from anybody. And it was like this was just supernatural.
Uh-huh.
No, no offering from anybody, no cash apps, no offering to the church, nothing. I mean, it's like everybody at one time decided we're not doing anything today. And it was
Mhm.
like, okay, it hit me. And when that happened, it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Mhm.
And I can't explain how that is, but it's it set me free. It set me
Uh-huh.
free because before that, everything we did was with in the back of the mind, how are people accepting this, how are people receiving this, will people continue to follow, will people give, all of that was still running in the background. And when I get emotional because when it happened to me, when that happened that Sunday, and Pastor called you and asked you, did
Yep.
you get up? Because we thought, well, maybe all of them sent money to normal. And then you said no.
No.
And we're like, what? And the reason why I said that, you probably brought up cussing. The very next Tuesday night that we had a session, I
I watched
literally
it.
cussed.
I
I
saw
cussed.
it. I saw
But it was a freedom cuss. It was like,
it.
okay, I just don't give a damn anymore. And it was
Uh-huh.
it was said out of my freedom because now I really don't. I really
Exactly.
don't. I don't care if they give or don't give. I don't care if they watch or don't watch. It was absolute freedom. And I still feel that. I'm not burdened by that anymore. Yes, it's important, but I'm not burdened by it. And I'll put it out there. If you want to give, you'll give. It has to come from your heart. Giving is something that comes from your heart, not from somebody
Exactly.
soliciting it from you, and not from you thinking you're going to get something back when you give it. So that's that, because when you think you're going to get something back when you give it, that's investing.
Exactly.
That's not
Exactly.
giving.
That's
Giving does not respect anything back.
the word says that it's more blessing to give than to receive.
Yes.
So I'm not
Yes.
looking for nothing in return. and so
Exactly.
forth. And so you have to identify the reason that transaction is being made.
Okay.
And that's what
I want to address. I don't cut you off but I want to address this comment that came up from Jill, and I want her to kind of give us some uh, expound a little bit on it. She says, "I would never tell anyone in church that I was a scientist prior to coming to Cornerstone." So, Jill, come on and tell us what you're talking about. While we're talking, you put something out there.
yeah, because
So,
I definitely need to know that. Was she actually a scientist?
yeah, well, she is a professor, a college professor.
Okay.
She teaches chemistry, if I'm correct, Jill. You correct me if I'm not telling that right. But I want to know I want her to tell me what she means when she says she was a scientist prior to coming to Cornerstone. Because and I can understand kind of what you're saying, but I want you to tell me what you're saying. So
Mhm.
that day freed me from all of the burden of worrying about will we be taken care of. And
Mhm.
so it and I sat with it and I said, okay, if they stop giving, what's the worst that could happen? Okay.
Mhm.
We might not have enough money to pay certain bills. So the lights might get cut off. If the lights get cut off, I've got lanterns and I've got candles. Okay. All
Mhm.
right. What if the air conditioners break? Oh, I can get some fans and go back to the way we used to do it and put the fan in the window.
I remember. Oh yeah, I remember that.
Put
Matter
some
of fact,
fans in the
fans
window,
everywhere.
eat cold watermelon or whatever I had to
I
do.
remember that.
What it boiled down to was I realized that I could still navigate. Even
Exactly.
if I didn't have these amenities, I could navigate.
Hmm.
If it came to the point where I couldn't pay for my house, okay, I could either put it up for sale and short sell it, or I could just walk away from it, and whatever happens, it will happen. I get an apartment. But so I went through all of the worst case scenarios. And then when I did that, it felt like, okay, that's not so bad. That's not so terrible. I
Yes.
could live with that. I've lived in a trailer before. I lived in it and loved it. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was the
Mhm.
best trailer. It was a luxury trailer.
It's what you there you go. It's what you make of it. There you go.
Yeah, so I realized that nothing could be that freedom and that being okay could not be taken from me.
Exactly. Because I think one of the things that we deal with all of that, especially being leaders and the perception of people, and I mentioned that before that I've been freed from being imprisoned by the perception of people. So just
Mm-hmm.
like you said, what if your lights did go off? What
Yeah.
would you really be fighting? The embarrassment that what people gonna say? Oh, y'all supposed to be men and women of God, and you supposed to be a bishop, an apostle, a prophet, and all of this and so forth. When they don't understand, life happens. Even
Yes.
the word lets us know the sun shines on the just and the unjust. Then the rain also comes on the just and the unjust. And so things happen, but we are fighting so much to fit a a, a, a picture of the image
Mm-hmm.
that people have of being successful in ministry or being successful in life and so forth. And I'm quite sure many of us have had situations that was unexpected, and we tried everything to stop it
Yeah.
from happening, and it still yet happened. So, do that
Yeah.
make you less of a person? Does that make you less of a of being successful? Again, we spent so much time trying to please the perception of other people, and we are lost in the process. We still
Yes.
don't know who we are.
Yes. Our concept of ourselves is what you're talking about. There's the image I have that in my head of what I think I am, and then there's the image in my head of what I'd like to be,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the image in my head of what I think other people think of me. So
Mm-hmm.
there's three different images in my head, three different concepts in my head, and so I'm constantly trying to reinvent a self that
Mm-hmm.
really does not exist. If I
Exactly.
let go of trying to reinvent something, Many of us have looked at people who are famous and well known and popular and tried to emulate them.
Mm-hmm.
I would say when you do that to be very, very careful, simply because when you emulate them, you take on every condition that they've had. You are now not only dealing with your own conditioning, you are dealing with theirs, because whatever they have been through in their life experiences made them the way they are. And you're trying hard to be as they are because you want to be in the position that they're in, or you want to have what it looks like they've already achieved. And so when we have that concept in our minds, and see, I'm learning to live without a picture in my head. That's the bottom line.
Exactly.
I didn't fear cussing, saying I don't give a damn, because I don't care anymore what people see.
Exactly.
It's only important what I think of me.
Mm-hmm.
What I think of me is very important. And when I say I don't mean in my human self. It's only important what God thinks of me. If when I do or say anything, is it really coming from a place of truth?
Exactly.
Or
Exactly.
am I putting on a show?
Exactly.
Am I projecting something I want you to see?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been a real journey for me. This has really been a journey for me to come
Me
to
too,
this
Mom.
absolute freedom. It has really been a journey. And I realize it may turn people off, but it doesn't matter anymore because I'm not concerned about who follows me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
that's gone.
Exactly. I mean, it's funny because and everyone and I just watched this. I think it was yesterday. They were talking about the psychology behind social media and how
Mm-hmm.
even some of them that have their hands in it, it's been used to manipulate the lifestyle, manipulate our lifestyles, and
Yes.
and many of them don't even they're not even aware of it. You see what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Now with me, I'm not a big social media guy. And it's funny because I have a marketing background. So I understand,
Yeah.
social media and so forth, but it's been never nothing that really interests me. I mean, like right now, of course, if the pandemic didn't happen, we probably wouldn't been doing StreamYard. We probably wouldn't been doing the Facebook or whatever and
No,
so forth.
we
Um,
wouldn't.
but we had to shift. We had to shift again because of the assignment and again being relevant and so forth. But again, it freed me to the point where I see now where I could be me. I could wake up be me. I don't have to go and try to please someone to fit an image that they're projecting on me and so forth. So I experienced a level of freedom that I didn't even know really exists. And
I
it's
tell you,
funny, I didn't even
freedom.
realize I was that bound. I
There's
didn't even
nothing
realize
like
that.
there's nothing like freedom of getting to the place where it actually doesn't matter. That
Exactly.
there is nothing like that. Just getting to the place where there is no worry about what's going to be, and
Mhm.
accepting that God loves me and is going to take care of me, whatever that looks like. So if my car breaks down and I got a bicycle, maybe God is saying I need to ride my bike.
There you go.
We
There
don't
you
think
go.
about that. We don't think about that. Maybe
Nope.
God is saying I need to ride my bike. If I
Mhm.
get to the store and there's no parking space close to the door, maybe God is saying you need to walk more. I
And
mean,
it's funny that you said that because that's what I've been saying concerning the pandemic. I say, isn't it funny how everything shut down, and
mhm.
then for a long period of time, some businesses was closed down, and so now you have no reason. You was complaining all before. I work too much, and I'm tired, and I'm not spending time with my wife or my husband, my children. Now you have the time. What is going to be the complaint now?
You
And so I
want
was
you,
telling everyone, it's your approach
yeah,
towards
you
the,
want to get
the,
away
the
from them.
pandemic. It was a reason behind it. It was a purpose behind it all. But again, I
Mm,
was telling them this is the time you need to get with your spouse like you never got with them before.
yeah.
This is the time where you need to sit down with the kids, get
Hmm.
Monopoly games, play Monopoly as a family, play checkers, have fun with your family. And
Exactly.
I could not make that adjustment.
That's
They wouldn't
right.
make
That's
that
right.
judgment because we know, according to what they were sharing on the media and in the news, that during a pandemic, it seemed like domestic violence increased.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it was obvious y'all was just passing one another and never knew one another. So now you standing in front of a person that you never
Well,
know.
I'm gonna be very candid. I'm gonna be very candid. If you
Go
don't like
ahead,
it, okay.
go ahead,
But
Ma.
they had what my husband and I call hall sex, where you
Uh-huh.
go through the hall, you pass each other and look at the other one and say "screw you." They say "screw you." That was their relationship. That
That's
was their
true, Ma.
relationship.
That's true.
But it was the
That's,
truth. It's the truth.
that's true.
I want to go back to Jill. She explained what she said. Actually, she said she forgot to give that Sunday. I think God caused everybody to forget, Jill. Everybody forgot that
But there
Sunday.
was something that you experienced out of that, Ma.
It was for my freedom. It was for my
Exactly.
freedom. I'm not, hey, look, I'm not asking for it to happen again, but it was for my freedom. And I think I got the lesson. I don't think it has to happen because I got the lesson. And also, Jill mentioned this. She said most Christians thought scientists are atheists and thought we were evolutionists. So that was what she meant when she said she was a scientist before she came to Cornerstone. Christianity preachers, she said, spoke against science when she was in college and grad school. So she deviated from that she truly felt a passion about in order to fit in. And that's what
Mhm.
we're talking about. Not being authentic because we want that validation and want to fit in. Because the
Exactly.
need to belong is a very strong need in all of us.
Exactly. And even with her being a scientist, it's the same scenario, even being quote unquote in the church or dealing with religion.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the scientific world, there are different ideologies. There are different, once again, beliefs and mindsets. Even so, there's still yet divisions even in that world, and it's the same within the church. If it wasn't so, we wouldn't have so many different denominations and different classes and fellowships and so forth and so on. So again, we got to understand, and I said this in the beginning, actually before we got into became live, there is so much of us that we don't understand. You see what I'm saying? I always say this, there's more to us than meets the eye. And
Yes,
so
yes.
I realize I have things that I really love and passionate about, not just doing, but different
Mm-hmm.
fields of study. You see what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? That
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
the church world itself would not welcome. You see what
Yes,
I'm saying?
yes, yes.
I study philosophy. I
Mm-hmm.
read all the things in with Plato and Aristotle and all this stuff. I'm up in the middle of the night. I get a thought and I put it in Google and I'm reading everything. You see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So I have a hunger for
Mhm,
wisdom. I have a
mhm.
hunger for knowledge, but it's not just about the church. You
So
see what I'm
yeah, and so that means that you have actually expanded beyond the confines of what the church has provided for you. Not that the church is irrelevant, it is very relevant for people who are lawless. They need that structure.
saying?
People who are lawless, people who are not I won't say self-sufficient. I will say have not found their own true strength, their inner strength. They need church because church provides them some sense of security. Church provides them that stimulation to keep them in that place. And even in the worship, I love worship, but even in that was for me. That was
Uh-huh.
for me. It wasn't that God needed it. I needed to be softer on the inside. And that was the thing. To worship is to go soft on the inside. And music and all of that helps you to do that. But this whole thing is about us living beyond the concept of who we think we are and coming into our full potential. And God knows we don't know what our full potential is because it's never ending. It is
Exactly.
just, it's there is no limit to who and what we can be and do when we start to believe in what we are. Not so much believe in myself as a strong black woman. No, not that. But
Mhm.
as a being of truth and a being of light, a being of love who really cares about what other people see and what other people have in their lives, and bringing yourself to a place of serving others instead of serving yourself.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I'm thinking about Lisa Nichols. I was watching her last week, um, and she was sharing concerning her success and how she
I
was able.
love her. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
her.
I love her. And again, her success as being the second black woman to have her company go public
Hmm.
and on Wall Street and everything. But she was sharing when it was the question that they was asking her concerning her achieving success and so forth. She gave the analogy of how, we always taught about, operating within a box, certain guidelines or whatever. But she said she realized she came to the realization there is no box.
Well, we're taught that from the day one. Even when you
Exactly.
get a coloring book, you're in
Gotta
kindergarten,
color.
you get a coloring book. They tell you to color within the lines. You can't even go outside
Exactly.
the lines. So
Ex-
we've been compartmentalized all our lives and
Which
confined
limits
in
us.
invisible cages. And some of us
Mhm.
use those cages as a defense mechanism because our lives were not pleasant, they were scary. Being little kids, everything's scary. And so it was easy for us to adapt to the confinements because it made a place of security. It's a little cocoon. And so,
Exactly.
but when I began to grow up as an adult and I begin to experience life and want to experience life differently outside of those confines, that cage then becomes a prison for me. That place of security then becomes a prison for me. I'm now confined by that I don't want to be confined by. Fears
Exactly.
that I've had all these years, beliefs that I've had all these years that protected me at one time, now they are imprisoning me.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's where, I could go back to what my wife said, talking about freedom. Again, freedom is priceless, and that's where I'm at right now. And of course, with that freedom, I have to understand some people will not be able to understand it. And so those who are watching again, we don't want them to miss construe that we are attacking the
Mm-mm.
church or
Mm-mm.
whatever.
Mm-mm.
Hey, I'm a product of the church. I'm a product of ministry and so forth. But again, we got to the point where we realized it was so much more than
Yeah.
what we've been exposed to. So it's about growing and consistently developing oneself. And I thought about that, that all this time, again, I was guilty of pleasing people, not realizing I had an addiction myself, again,
Mhm.
trying to fit the image of everybody else. And I was losing me. I
And
was
wanting to be successful like other ministers that we had seen. That's I
exactly,
think that's and in doing that, I think I sold myself short.
exactly,
Because I know that now that they got to where they are, some, if they did it legitimately, got to where they are by being true to themselves.
exactly. And that's what I learned in that process. See, because they don't tell the whole story. We don't see behind the scenes.
Mhm.
And you said that earlier about how we're trying to duplicate what others are doing,
Yeah.
not realizing that there are some struggles that they went through that they might not have told you about
Yes.
before they got.
Yes.
We are being
Yes.
exposed to the end result. We're only
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
exposed to those things that are favorable. We don't know or see everything. I mean,
Yeah.
take for example, and I know this to be true. For some that we love to watch and to praise and go to their conferences. Oh, you wouldn't want to be in a business meeting with them because they would cuss you out. They will literally cuss you out. So you don't know the
Yeah.
full scope of everything. You see what I'm
And
saying?
and they work very hard,
Exactly. You
very
only
hard to put that out.
see the polish up, but then also have to realize a lot of them are in what we perceive successful is not based off of ministry alone. They are doing several other things as well. And so I was sharing last night It's funny that we are even on this topic. I was shared last night about understanding what a propitious moment is. All right. What is a
Yeah,
propitious
go ahead.
moment?
You mentioned that before we went live. So tell me what a propitious moment is.
Okay. A propitious moment is when everything is favorable. All conditions are favorable. All right.
Okay.
Everything is in alignment. All right. And
Yes.
so I gave the analogy several weeks ago concerning how investment bankers, all they do is watch a screen all day long. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
could be out playing golf and they would give me a call and say, well, Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Armstrong, we noticed that company XYZ, they have stocks, shares of stock for
Uh-huh.
say $50.
Uh-huh.
And may need to jump on this right now because they're watching the trends. And
Mm-hmm.
again, I was talking about discerning the time. They're watching the trends, and so
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden they're saying this is a favorable time for you to purchase this stock
Yeah.
because they're forecasting and they're intuitively seeing something ahead down the line. So
Yes.
months later, I tell them, go ahead, buy me 100 shares of stock at $50 a share. So they buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I could be out on a golf course again, and I'm using golf course because more business decisions are made on the golf
That
course.
yeah, they are. Yeah. Yeah, they
And
are.
so forth. And so 6 months down the road, I could be playing golf again, get a call from the investor bank again. Mr. Armstrong, I'm calling to let you know that the stocks that you bought at $50 a share, they have just went up to $350 a share.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everything the
I'm
conditions
good.
it may never reach this again. What do you
Mm-hmm.
want to do? So now I understand they're sharing to me what they're seeing, and so all the conditions are favorable. So now, when you see these favorable conditions, you got to do two things. You got to make a decision, and you got to go into action. And
Mm-hmm.
so many of us, we don't understand that we have different seasons in our lives, and we have
Yes.
to be able to discern what season we're actually in and make
Yes.
decisions and
Yes.
go into action. And so again, another situation is the pandemic itself. Um, and it's simple economics, supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
When they came up on the news and said it is okay to wear homemade masks. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, they even sent out different patterns on that you could pull up on the internet and so forth. But
Hold on. I gotta say this before you keep going. I know you're on the road, but look, I saw a lady who had a homemade mask and it was knitted. She had holes in it.
that was not why. That was not why.
She did
Believe
her
me,
thing.
I've seen some funny man, and I guess all of us have. Like, what
Yeah.
in the world? Yep.
Well, you
But
know, in the Old Testament, there in the children of Israel, Israel had those 12 tribes. One of the tribes
was the
was the
son
tribe of
Issachar.
Issachar,
Yep,
and
that's what
because
I was talking about.
they knew the times,
And to
and so
tell the
they were
people
doing
what they
exactly
ought
what
to
you're
do.
saying. They took advantage of the times, and they were the ones who told them what's coming and what happened
Exactly.
and the trends. They watched all of that. That was their
Exactly.
purpose.
And that was our foundational scripture actually last night. And so I shared with them concerning the pandemic. I even talked about this last year in 2020 that during this time, even right now, there are Fortune 500 companies, entrepreneurs right now, that this is a favorable time for them, a favorable time, but it's unfavorable for someone else. You see
Well,
what I'm saying?
let's bring it back down to, because I understand exactly what you're saying. A lot of people used that and really made a lot of money. And I wanted to say this: that Pastor and I, for years, we've had the times when we had lots of money, didn't know really how to manage it. We blew a lot of it for things that were pleasurable and all of that. But when the pandemic hit, I had been struggling to just get out of debt, just to get out of debt. Now, this is the thing: when 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 the pandemic hit, it was March of 2020, right?
Right.
My mother-in-law was in the nursing home at the time, and she died a week before they shut the whole country down. And when she passed, my husband and I had policies on her, insurance policies, and we literally took those policies and paid everything we could pay off. Everything. We don't have any car debt. Both of our vehicles are paid off. We literally were able to get out of debt. And then when we went live on the internet, through Facebook only, we didn't have any other means of doing it. And Oliver Blue was the one who helped us to get into the mode of doing it. We didn't know how to do it or any of that. So when that happened and people start to not just give the Cornerstone, people started pouring in money through Cash App. And I'm thinking, wow, we never would have gotten this in church. We never would have gotten this. And those Cash App love gifts have literally got us to the place where we hardly have any debt at all.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so it's not as scary when things don't work just right, because we don't have a lot on us. And if anything does happen, and like I said, I don't care no more. But that's what you're talking about. This is, and not only that, but Laverne and Vern is here. Thank you, Vern. She said when it came to the point of keeping our building, we discussed with our landlords, okay, can we reduce our rent for this period of time? We don't know how long we're going to have to be shut down. So we went through all of that negotiations and trying to get them to work when they would not. So they're saying all these other churches are paying full price. I said, okay, we knew we could not continue to pay full price. So we shut our church down, literally shut it down and let the building go so we wouldn't have a rent payment. That, in essence, has caused Cornerstone as an entity to continue to be a viable virtual church.
Exactly.
Had we not done that, there would be nothing of Cornerstone, nothing. So it forced us to make decisions that were hard, but they were very wise. And so now things are beginning to open back up. We're like, okay, do we need to get another building? Do we need to not? This is where the redefining of who we are is coming.
Exactly. And that's where, of course, many of the leaders and pastors are. But again, it's, what I did, I took a different approach. Again, the pandemic,
it's different for everybody.
Yeah, it's different for everybody. But again, I've become free. I'm more of myself. I have less stress, less worries, whatever. Now with Bo, and this is a lesson for everyone. With Bo, we still have our building. We still have our building. But I
understand it fully. I really understand it because I watched you guys Mother's Day. Right.
But see, I want them to hear this part, though. I want them to hear this.
Go ahead.
The thing is, we have not been there since March of last year. You see what I'm saying? So, like what you guys did, y'all let y'all building go. All right. Here, we spent all this money. You see what I'm saying? For March of last year. You see what I'm saying? And I want my people to hear this because this is about wisdom.
Yes.
All the way from last year, we have not been there. Yeah, we've been there for like the Mother's Day drive-through that we did last year and this year and so forth. But the thing is, we have not congregated. You see what I'm saying? And so this is money that we are constantly putting out that we would never get again. And so I have to think about for what reason. You know what I'm saying? For what reason? Because again, someone would say to you guys, because y'all gave up y'all building, they would look at y'all as failed leaders or failed pastors. I don't see that. You see, I don't see that because now the truth of the matter is you're touching a whole lot more people through social media. You know, you have a larger congregation. You're going to say less overhead. Don't have to be worried about the bills, if the light's going to be on, if we miss the payment or whatever and so forth. You have so much liberty right now and still yet do what you love to do.
Yes. And so what we constantly are dealing with, and we're coming to the place of not dealing with it, is what people think.
Exactly. The perception of other people. And that's where with me, you know, we're making decisions possibly next month. And again, I let my people know all the time, I miss you guys. Because I love people. I'm very sociable, you know.
Well, now I have to say this. I can understand you're holding on to your building for one reason. Cornerstone has always been like a hub of the triad, in the sense that most of our members, the majority of our members, live outside of the city that our church was in, within 20 to 30, 35 miles and more away from where our church is. So in order for us to keep that building, we would have to keep them coming to a spot. So even like when you did your Mother's Day thing, it was wonderful. I saw you giving out the flowers to mothers and stuff. I saw that. It was wonderful. You're able to pull them into a certain locale because they're obviously not far away.
Exactly.
So our people were further away. They didn't want to drive 40 miles to come to a parking lot and sit and hear us talk.
Exactly.
They don't want to drive 35, 40 miles, 50 miles to come to get flowers or a basket. They don't want to do that. So here we are. And then a lot of our congregation your congregation is a lot younger. Our congregation is a lot older. Exactly. They don't care to drive all of those miles. So here we are. We had to make a decision based on the way we are. You had to make a decision based on the way you are. And so it isn't a right or a wrong way. It's just what works for you. It's what works for you.
And that's why I believe this needed to be said, because it's going to free a lot of leaders. That you cannot.
Yeah, this is for leaders today.
Well, and I'm saying that because, again, because of who we are. Your scenario was a little different than ours. You see what I'm saying? And so the key thing was that you said that, I wanted to bring forth, there is no right or wrong. You have to understand, for each person in the midst of this pandemic, each person had a different experience.
Yes.
See what I'm saying? And so if we're going to celebrate people being who they are in their situations or whatever, we got to stop putting them in a box and say, well, you got to do it this way. No, that may be your way, but it's not the way. Each situation is different. And that's why I love the point, even from the time y'all started talking about no judgments. See, that's the thing that is keeping us so divided, and why we can't come together, and why we can't have such a peace of mind when it comes to approaching different situations, because we make a box and we want everybody to be in that box. And that box won't fit me. That I won't even, let alone thrive, but I won't even survive in that box. So you're killing me. You're stifling me. And you're not willing to allow me to grow and spread my wings and be who I am in freedom.
And the thing is, and our time's winding up, man. But the thing is, the more they free you, the more they're going to be able to glean from you, because you're going to be able to give them more of what God has placed inside of you already. So that's the thing. You don't give up things, you give up to gain.
Exactly.
You don't just give up to lose, you give up to gain.
Exactly.
And so that's what true freedom means. That's what true freedom means, is the absolute letting go and allowing things to be. And we talk about in our day and time in the West, the law of attraction. We always talking about the law of attraction. I'm attracting good to me, or I'm attracting evil to me by how I think and how I speak. Yes, that's true. But there's a higher law. That's the law of allowing. And that was in Genesis when it says, let there be. And that's just getting into the flow of God and letting things be and trusting that God is taking care of you. Some people say, well, I find it hard to trust God for that. No, you don't. If you drive a car, you trust every day that man or that woman's going to stay on their side of the street.
Exactly.
So don't tell me you can't trust. You can trust. Trust God that God loves you, and that God will take care of you. And this has been a good session today.
Man, we're gonna have to continue this somehow. But it's so funny because
I don't know if anybody else was blessed by it, but we were blessed.
We are. I mean, it's funny, Ma. This is where I'm at when it won't be, because I want to do different things with our congregation. I'm on this journey of
it's exciting.
empowering people.
And that's exciting. That's very
Exactly.
exciting. What if, now this is just a what if. What if you had a building that was a storehouse for supplies for people, things you want to do for people, but yet you still had your virtual service online? Now that would be cool. And then you guys got together once a month just to cut up and run around the building. That would be cool.
That's it. That's it. But see, I want to shift things, because who said on Sunday mornings that we can't just come there, sit in a chair, and just open up the floor, and we'll pick a particular topic, and we start expounding on it and allow the people to ask questions. You see what I'm saying? There are people. It's funny because, and again, we do not mean to offend anybody, but I have to say it this way. I think about so many people who jump up and down, shout and run, and shout and running and dancing in ignorance. You still are without information that could really impact and bring change in your life. You still don't know. You're just feeling good. That's it.
You know, a lot of us that do our shouting and running in churches, because we used to do some dancing in the world, and we didn't want to give that up, so we get it out when we're in church. We don't have no other time to get it out. We don't tell anybody, but we secretly dancing when nobody's around at home. Some of us are twerking in the closet with us.
That's it. That's it. I don't want them to see this.
So it's all about being truly who you are, and knowing that God is really not putting all of these confines on us, not really saying you can't do this, you can't do that. Everything is okay if you don't lose yourself in it.
Exactly.
That's the whole point. And Paul said it, all things are lawful to me, but I will not come under the power of anything.
That's right.
And so it's when things take over your whole mind and your whole being, and you get lost in it, that's when it's not good for you. And so I just appreciate you so, young man. And I tell you what, we have gone over time, but it is okay. And Pastor's here. Look, he got up. He finally got up. Look, everybody can see him.
He got up.
Yeah, he's over there on the computer. Say hey, Pay.
Hey, y'all. How you doing?
What's going on, Dad?
He had to get him a good nap. Then I gotta put my camera back so that I can keep talking. There we go. So here we are at the end of 332, and we've had a wonderful conversation today. Pastor Norman, it's been great. It's been great.
It has been, Mom.
Great. Look, if you want to give, we're going to put up there. You want to put anything up there? I'm going to put our Cash App up there for them. Let's see.
That's enough.
If you want to do that, that's great.
That's it.
Otherwise, we're going to sign off, and we'll see you guys again on Sunday. Of course, you can announce when you're going to be on Sunday.
We'll be on at 11 a.m. for our Sunday morning word encounter. 11 a.m.
Yep, and we're on an hour before at 10, and we're on Facebook and YouTube. And so we look forward to seeing you guys there. And thank you for tuning in to us. It's been great. Your comments have been great. Gwen said laughter is good for the soul. It sure will. It sure is. It'll heal you. It'll heal you too.
That's
what. Say anything?
No, good.
All right, darlings. We love you. We'll see you next time.
Love y'all all. Enjoy your day.